What's good, YouTube? MLB Updates 365 here, back with another video. The MLB trade deadline is officially a week away, and teams can make trades up until August 2nd at the 4 p.m. Eastern Time deadline. In this video, we are going to break down every single MLB team on what they should do at the trade deadline. Should they buy, sell, or stay put? We're going to break it down, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like. Let's get right into it. So starting things off with the NL East, the Mets have been one of the best teams all season long. The offense has been very solid, the bullpen's been good, and the rotation, despite injuries, has been solid as well. With that being said, though, I think they're going to upgrade the offense. They've been linked to Trey Mancini, and they lack some power in the middle of that lineup, and I think it'd be a great fit for them. Up next is the Atlanta Braves, again one of the best teams in all of baseball. Could they upgrade the rotation? Yes, because Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton have both regressed, but I don't think they'll do that. I think outfield is their main priority right now. With Adam Duvall now out for the year, I think Andrew Benintendi makes a lot of sense for them. Third up is the Phillies. I think they'll be buyers as well. Unlike previous seasons, the bullpen's actually been pretty good. The lineup, though, has been decimated to injuries to guys like Bryce Harper and Gene Segura. With that being said, though, I think they upgrade the rotation. They're lacking some depth in the back end. Zach Eflin and Ranger Suarez have dealt with recent injuries, and they could use another starter. Fourth up is the Marlins, and they're our first seller on this list. The Marlins have been a complete letdown this season, in my opinion. They signed Jorge Soler and Avisel Garcia in the offseason, and they just have not been good for them. Jorge Soler is now out for the year as well, and I think they have some trade pieces that teams could like. Jesus Aguilar, he's on an expiring contract, as well as Garrett Cooper. They're fourth in the NL East right now, and I think they'll be a seller. Last up in the NL East is the Washington Nationals. They have the worst record in the National League, and they'll absolutely be sellers. Will they trade Juan Soto? I don't think he gets dealt at the trade deadline, maybe this offseason, but they have some other pieces teams might be interested in: Josh Bell, Nelson Cruz, and Cesar Hernandez. Moving on over to the NL Central here, the Brewers are in first place, and they have one of the best offenses in baseball. It's ranked 10th in runs scored. They have a good rotation, and the back end of the bullpen is a lock with Devin Williams and Josh Hader. I think they're going to add to the lineup, though. Center field has kind of been a weakness for them this year. I think Ramon Laureano would be a good fit. He's cost-effective and under club control for 2 more seasons after this one. Second up in the NL Central is the St. Louis Cardinals. Have one of the best offenses in baseball and one of the best bullpens, but the rotation is kind of a mess right now. Outside of Adam Wainwright and Miles Michaelis, it's kind of a who knows what's going to happen. Jack Flaherty's been hurt, Steven Matz has been hurt, and Dakota Hudson has regressed heavily, so I think they need to add a starter at the deadline. Third up in the NL Central is the Pirates. They're going to be sellers. They already traded away Daniel Vogelbach. They have guys like Jose Quintana, Ben Gamel, Jake Marisnick, all on 1-year expiring contracts that will definitely be dealt. And no, I do not think they'll trade Brian Reynolds and David Bednar, their top 2 trade pieces possibly. They just have too much club control on those guys. Fourth up is the Cubs in the NL Central. They kind of are a disappointment. 18 games under 500. They spent $225 million in new contracts this season, but they have a lot of trade pieces. Outside of Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ, 2 of the best bats on the market. They have 2 good relievers in David Robertson and Michael Givens. Fifth up, and finally, is the Cincinnati Reds. Kind of been one of the worst teams in baseball all season long, but again, like the Cubs, they have a lot of trade pieces, and this time in pitchers. Luis Castillo and Tyler Mowry are 2 of the top starters on the market. They also have Tommy Pham, who has an expiring 1-year contract, and Brandon Jury, one of the better offensive players available, as he's extremely versatile. Up next, we had the NL West, starting off with the Dodgers, who had the best record in the National League, and this might surprise people, but I think they're going to stay put for the most part. Will they add someone? Of course, because they need to definitely upgrade off the bench, and in the rotation, you can never have enough depth, but this team is super talented. They have the best rotation ERA, 6th best bullpen ERA, and the 2nd best offense. I really don't think they'll be in the market for a star hitter or a star pitcher, so I have them staying put. Second up in the NL West is the Padres. They're 10 games over 500. They have a really good rotation, average bullpen, same thing with the offense. Fernando Tatis Jr. is coming back, so that will definitely upgrade the offense, but they got to do more. First base and corner outfield spots could definitely use some help. I think Garrett Cooper, who can play first and the corner outfield spots, would be a good addition. Third up in the NL West is the San Francisco Giants. I think they should be sellers, but I don't think that's going to happen, so I'm going to have them staying put. They're 48-48, coming off a 107-win season. It's kind of been disappointing, but if they do decide to sell, Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson would be 2 guys that would bring in a lot in return. Fourth up in the NL West is the Colorado Rockies. They're 9 games under 500. They're not contending this year in the wild card race or in the NL West, but they do have some pieces that could be sold. CJ Cron's a really good hitter. Daniel Bard's one of the best relievers on the market, and Chad Kuhl even is a back end of the rotation arms who's having a solid year. Last but not least is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're in a similar situation to the Colorado Rockies, not contending this year, but they have some pieces they can trade. Can they finally get rid of that Madison Bumgarner contract? He's been pitching better. Christian Walker is a right-handed bat with pop. He could definitely be dealt at the deadline. And then, of course, David Peralta, who's a free agent after the year, the longest tenured Arizona Diamondback. I think he'll be traded at this year's trade deadline. Moving on over to the American League now, starting off with the AL East, we have the New York Yankees, who have the best record in Major League Baseball, but this team has a lot of work to do at the MLB trade deadline, especially with Mike King now out for the year. He was one of their better relievers, so they got to upgrade the bullpen, and I think they'll be in the market for a bat. I think Ian Happ makes a lot of sense. With Aaron Judge now in center field, you can put him in either corner outfield spot. He has a low strikeout rate, high walk rate, and he's a good power hitter from both sides of the plate, and going to Yankee Stadium would only help his numbers. Second in the AL East is the Toronto Blue Jays. They have to upgrade the pitching staff, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. I mean, what's happened to Jose Barrios? He's been really bad. Yusei Kikuchi has been disappointing, and Hyun-Jin Ryu is hurt, so they got to add a starter there. And in the bullpen, they have trouble getting Jordan Romano, who's an elite closer, so I think David Robertson would be a good addition. Third up in the AL East is the Tampa Bay Rays. Do I think they'll be buyers? Yeah, but I could see them staying put as well and just finding, internal talent, because that's how the Rays work. But they had the most blown saves in baseball, so they got to upgrade the bullpen. And the offense is one of the worst in Major League Baseball, ranking 24th. So if they're serious about competing this year, got to upgrade the bullpen and the offense. Fourth up is the Boston Red Sox. I think they're going to be sellers. They're one game over 500 right now, but they're 2-12 in their last 14 games. They've been terrible against the AL East this year, and they have a lot of free agents after the year that could interest teams. JD Martinez, Nathan Eovaldi, Michael Wacha, Rich Hill. List goes on and on. So I think Boston will be sellers at the deadline, or at least they should be. Last but not least, in the AL East, it's the Baltimore Orioles. They're 48-48. They're on a miracle run right now. I think they'll stay put, or I think there'll be a mix of both buyers and sellers. If they buy at the deadline, it'll be someone who's under club control for a couple years, because the Orioles will be competing then. I could also see them selling a guy like Trey Mancini, who's a free agent after the year. And like I said, staying put, just riding the season out, but trading when need be. Moving on over to the AL Central here, the Twins are in first place, and they'll be buyers at this year's trade deadline. They'll be in the market for some starting pitching and bullpen help. They're linked to Frankie Montas in the offseason. I could see them revisiting that. As for the bullpen, they had the fifth most blown saves in Major League Baseball, so they got to address that as well. Next up is the Cleveland Guardians. They're 48-47. I think they should be buyers at this year's trade deadline, but knowing how Cleveland operates, they'll probably stay put, and they could even be sellers, but I think they should buy, but I'll have them staying put. Next up is the Chicago White Sox. If they were in any other division, I said they should be sellers, because they have guys like Jose Abreu, Lance Lynn, Josh Harrison, all intriguing names to other clubs. But with how bad they've been playing and all the injuries, they're only 4 games out of the division lead. If those guys can come back healthy, can produce like normal, they could win the division. So I think they're going to stay put and let this thing ride out. Fourth up is the Kansas City Royals. They've been extremely disappointing this year. They're 20 games under 500, but they do have some good trade candidates. Andrew Benintendi, Scott Barlow is one of the better relievers. They also have guys like Whit Merrifield and Michael A. Taylor. Last but not least is the Detroit Tigers. They're similar fashion to the Kansas City Royals. They have a lot of relievers, though, that could be available. Joe Jimenez, Andrew Chafin, and Michael Fulmer are all really good relievers who are under club control for next season as well. I think they'll sell all 3 of those, and we'll see if they sell a guy like Gregory Soto and get a huge return for him. Last but not least, the AL West, starting off with the Houston Astros, who statistically have the best bullpen ERA and the second best rotation ERA, but the offense ranks 14th in runs scored, so they're definitely going to add a bat at the deadline. I think Wilson Contreras or Josh Bell is at Houston Astro by August 2nd. Next up is the Seattle Mariners. They're 52-45. They currently hold the third and final wildcard spot. 20-year playoff drought could be coming to an end. They got to do some work, though. They have a top 5 rotation and bullpen in baseball, but the offense ranks in the bottom third in runs scored. Second base is a huge weakness. I think a guy like Brandon Drury or Whit Merrifield, someone who's versatile, could be a nice upgrade for them. Third up is the Texas Rangers. I think they're going to stay put. They have a few trade candidates, including Martin Perez, who they said they're already not going to trade and try to extend. So with that being said, I think they'll stay put and try to contend next year. But if they do sell, Matt Moore could be an intriguing name for some teams in need of a left-handed reliever. Fourth up is the Los Angeles Angels. I think they should blow it up entirely, but if they don't do that, they're still going to be sellers. They have guys like Noah Syndergaard, Aaron Loup, and Michael Lorenzen, all pitchers that could be intriguing the contending teams, but I think Shohei Ohtani should be traded, but we'll see what happens with that. And lastly, the Oakland Athletics, they'll definitely be sellers. They had the worst record in the American League. They have guys like Sean Murphy, Frankie Montas, Ramon Laureano, all valuable trade candidates that could bring in some nice prospects or even some young proven talent to Oakland.